Bija, Yongona, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Sunshine Manning, and I'm the Director of Communications here at Indian Collective. I'm Noe and Nama, and I'm a citizen of the Shoshone-Paiute tribes of the Duck Valley Indian Reservation in Idaho and Nevada. And today we are on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation at the Jumping Bull Ranch. We're here because we are kicking off the caravan to DC as a part of this campaign, this effort, the 79th birthday action for Leonard Peltier. And as many folks know, Leonard has been wrongfully imprisoned for 48 years now. He's just about to turn 79 years old. And Indian Collective, in collaboration with a lot of grassroots folks and Amnesty International, we're planning this action in DC on Leonard's 79th birthday on Tuesday, September 12th. But leading up to that is this caravan, and the caravan is starting here today with ceremony at the site of the shootout that took place in 1975, where Leonard was wrongfully imprisoned for the death of 2 FBI agents. So we're on the grounds right now. You see this teepee behind me that was just erected just moments ago here at the very site of that shootout. And so today is really significant, starting out here before we kick off the caravan tomorrow. So we're starting in ceremony. There's a bunch of people gathered. As you look around, you'll see a lot of Oglala people from this community, old school Aimsters, young, new, up-and-coming Aimsters, a lot of people who have been a part of this fight for Indigenous rights for a long time. There's members of the Jumping Bull family here who we'll be talking to, who are actually here on the day of the shootout. But we wanted to kick off this caravan by starting out with this live stream, opening up some conversation with some people who have been a part of this for a really long time. And to open up in ceremony, just letting you all know we're not going to be live during the ceremony. We'll cut the camera at that time. But what we do have is an opportunity to talk to people before that. So we're going to talk to a few people on this live stream today. And we'll hear some opening remarks from people before we start that ceremony. And again, once the ceremony starts, we're going to turn off the live. But we're really happy to be here with you all today. And thank you for following us. Thank you for caring about this work enough, caring about Leonard, caring about the movement for justice and equity for all people. But before we get started, I wanted to talk to one of our team members here, Andrew Ironshell, who's been a part of this work for a really long time as a grassroots organizer. And I wanted first, Andrew, for you to introduce yourself.
Hello, relatives. My name's Andrew Cat Ironshell. I'm Eastern Band Cherokee, raised out here among the Lakota. I'm 59 years old, a single parent. And I'm really excited to be participating in this today on behalf of Leonard Peltier, and to be here at this site, at the Jumping Bull site. It's really epic and iconic that we would start here in prayer like this. And as I was driving here today from the Black Hills, I thought about how this movement, this red road that we're on, advocating for Grandpa Peltier. You know, we want him to come home. And all of my life, I've heard stories of the injustice of why Leonard Peltier is imprisoned. And all the things, all the solutions that we've been trying to get him out is all related to prayer. From the time he left to the time when we bring him home, when we bring him out of those doors. In the next few days, it would be nice to bring him out for his birthday, to bring him to this land here and pray again, and to be thankful and blessings of his freedom. So I think that we really are going to see his freedom in this time, in this short window, this moment in history that we're at, because our prayers are very powerful. And everything we do, we begin with prayer. And I think that's what makes us different as Indigenous people, is we ground ourselves in the spiritual thought before we do these things. We never know what is going to happen in these battles, but we know with prayer, beginning with prayer, that it's going to end the way that it should end. It's going to happen the way that it should happen. So Leonard's been imprisoned for almost 50 years on our behalf, to remind us of the injustice of this country, of this nation. and how the rules apply to certain people and how they're enforced upon us, the rest, the oppressed. But today we're not oppressed. Today we're celebrating because we're here in a prayer to bring Grandpa home. And it's worthy of the songs and of the prayer and of this intention to bring Grandpa home. I'm happy to be on this journey. We're going to hop on a bus tomorrow. I'm going to hop on with my youngest children. They don't know exactly what happened to Peltier, but they know that their grandpa was incarcerated on false charges because they had to lock up somebody. And so somehow he was the scapegoat for the United States. And we want to see his freedom. We demand his freedom. And so we're going to pray for justice, for love, for dignity for our relatives, all relatives behind bars, that they should all be free. And I think I'll say about that much for now. And please join us as, I'll be on the bus with my children. They're going to be doing what they do on social media, so follow them. I think it's going to be exciting to see my son and my daughter kind of learn about this journey and learn about this grandpa that they're going to meet when he comes out. So thank you, relatives, for joining us today. I hope.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And I want to point out your shirt really quickly, just because I think it really speaks to what you were mentioning. That's Leonard Crow Dog on the left and Leonard Peltier on the right, the two Leonards of the American Indian movement. And I think that side by side really shows, for Leonard Crow Dog, a Lakota medicine man who was a part of the American Indian movement and was right there. There was always ceremony. The American Indian movement people were always, like you said, starting with ceremony, and that really unique aspect of the American Indian movement, the Red Power movement, is what many think made it really strong, is having that spiritual component, because this work is hard. It's hard. It's grueling. Our people get targeted. Many of us descend from parents and grandparents who were right there in it, and we know the realities of what it means for our people to be persecuted, wrongfully imprisoned. There were also many uninvestigated murders and deaths of Indigenous people, Native people, during that era. And so having the spirituality, the grounding ceremony to keep us going, I think you captured that really well. And you mentioned your children will be on the caravan with you, right? And I think one thing that we wanted to point out is that Andrew's daughter, Casey Ironshell, will also be simultaneously posting to Instagram. If she's not already on Instagram Live, check it out later today. Casey Ironshell, Andrew's daughter. She's one of our youth storytellers who will be on the caravan, and she will be doing a play-by-play from the bus, sharing from her perspective as a youth who grew up in the movement, what it's like to be a part of this caravan, and what it's like to, be in the moment. And so stay tuned for more of that, and we'll try to go find Casey, and maybe we could talk to her a little bit later as well. But thanks so much, Andrew. We'll visit with you more later, and we'll see you on the caravan. All right, so now we're going to start walking our way through and showing you the space. As I mentioned, we are at the Jumping Pool Ranch, which is the site of the shootout that took place in 1975. And if I could just say quickly a few words about what it feels like here. If you can't hear, there's a lot of laughter. There's some Lakota elders, they're speaking Lakota, just feeling good. There's folks from Wombly Ska, from the American Indian Movement, local chapters. There's a lot of other people here who are going to be a part of the caravan. There are youth, there are elders, and so we're going to talk to some of them a bit more today. But we're going to quickly go through, have some conversation with a few more people, and then we're going to get started with the programming. So let's walk through under the trees here. I want to make sure to watch my step because there's potholes, so be careful as you're coming through. I don't want you to... Okay, so... maybe we could come and get a look of the place really quickly, just to show for context what the grounds look like. And so you can see the teepee that was set up earlier today, a really beautiful teepee that was set up by Lakota women. It was really a beautiful sight to see. And then also some men who supported. And then you can see some of what I mentioned earlier, just a lot of the the visiting and good feelings that are here, the laughter, the excitement, the happiness, and just what we all know to be that feeling and energy when our people gather together. So now we're going to walk through and find a couple more people to have some quick conversation with. We're going to see if we could find Nick, our president and CEO. So we're kind of navigating through these woods here, so bear with us. I want to go slowly enough so you're not... Oh, there he is. Let's go find him this way. You ready? Okay. All right. So here we are with our president and CEO, Nick Tilson. Nick, we just opened up our conversation by talking to Andrew, and Andrew talked about the importance of starting in ceremony. Can you say more about that, like why this particular caravan is starting here? So what is that significance, and what's going to happen here today?
Well, the significance is that we're here on the Jumping Bull and Long Visitor lands here in Oglala on Pine Ridge, and this is the land in which the shootout happened at, and in 1975. In June of 1975, there was an AIM camp down here, and this AIM camp was attacked by the FBI, and that led to the shootout between the AIM and the FBI at that time. And that day, 3 people's lives were lost right here on this land. The FBI agents Kohler and Williams, along with Joe Stunts. Everybody always forgets to mention that there was 3 people killed that day, and one of them was Joe Stunts. And there's even a memorial to have to him over here. And it's important that we start what we're doing. We're not just doing like activism, we got to do this in a spiritual way, because this is heavy work, and we need to ask the ancestors to come guide us and help us. And so we wanted to start this out in a good way to honor the lives that were lost here. We wanted to also honor the families whose land this is. We wanted to honor all of the people throughout the past 48 years who have been 49 years who've been working to try to work for Leonard's freedom, and because some of those relatives have passed on into the spirit world too. But as we organize and as we advocate, we are calling upon them to join us in this journey. And we're going to be passing through many different territories on our way to Washington, D.C. to do the protest and to do the action and to raise awareness. And so we wanted to ask the spirits and the ancestors and for permission as we go from state to state, territory to territory, and so doing it in a good way. And when we do something, we always feed the spirits. So we made, traditional foods that were made by the women, wasna, dried meat, to feed the spirits, but also feed the people when we do this too. So that's why we're doing this in a good way. When we're first coming up with this idea to do this caravan and to do this mobilization, we really wanted to make sure that we did it based on our ways as Lakota people, our ways as Indigenous people, and to do it with our protocol, and to always remember that every single time that we do this type of work that we follow those protocol, and particularly in this case because people's lives were lost, and this is a healing journey too. To seek justice and to seek freedom and to seek liberation for Leonard is also a healing journey, because so many of the warriors, men, women, and everybody that have come before us, they went on with their lives, but Leonard has stayed locked up. And so to pray for a safe trip, to pray for the ancestors, to pray for guidance as we make decisions that lead to Leonard's liberation and to his freedom. Because we start to feel, that there's something powerful happening here. There's something powerful happening in this journey, and so we are here to make prayers in a good way for our journey.
Thank you, Nick. One other thing that I was hoping you could share a quick few words about too is I got a chance to have a sneak peek of the upcoming podcast episode for Land Back for the People, which is a podcast hosted by Nick and produced by our team. And there's an upcoming episode on this caravan and the fight to free Leonard Peltier. And one thing that you talked about in there, I don't want to give away all the details. I want to encourage people to subscribe, watch the podcast, subscribe. It's on YouTube, NDN podcasts. You can subscribe, and it's also on all places that you find podcasts. But you said something that I think was really important in there about the symbolism, this duality of the symbolism of Leonard as this symbol of this long fight for justice, and then the other side of that being that Leonard is a human being who, this has been a really tough journey. It's been a journey that he's lost his freedom for. And so can you share a quick few words on that duality and how both of those are really important to this fight and the narrative and this work?
Yeah, Leonard was incarcerated and, faced political repression at a time in which the FBI and the United States government decided to wage war on the Indigenous people's movement and on the American Indian movement. And, Leonard has made a massive sacrifice for our people and for our movement. Because if you look at the years between 1968 and 1976, those periods of years and the rise of the American Indian movement led to massive policy changes and awakening up of our people across Turtle Island. And many of us got to benefit, from the stances that were made and the political conditions that were made by the leaders that sacrificed for the generation before us. And Leonard himself has not been able to reap in those benefits because he's been locked up, illegally incarcerated in a movement that he helped build and contribute to. And so as we fight for Leonard's freedom, we're not just fighting, for liberation and the awareness that this has happened to Native people, but he's a father, a grandfather, he's an elder. And he deserves justice. He deserves liberation. He's never deserved to be locked up in prison. And so as we do this, we have to remember, it is the efforts of the colonizer to separate our people and incarcerate them from their people and from their movement and from their communities and from their tribes. And so he needs to know, that we are fighting for him. He needs to know that we are rising up, that we are organizing, that we are advocating for him, that we're bringing light to this issue, that it's not being swept under the rug, that it's not being ignored. And so this effort is as much about uplifting Leonard's spirits, because his health isn't good. As we approach his, birthday, his health isn't good. But when he knows that people are fighting for him, he feels good. I had the opportunity to talk to him just the other day. And I know we shared maybe a little piece of that in the podcast. But if he feels good that we're fighting for him, it helps him keep moving on and keep holding it together and keep trying to focus on his health while we're doing this work. And so it's really important that we remember all of the dualities of this struggle of Indigenous resistance and liberation that we're trying to continue on, that our generation is trying to continue on based on the sacrifices of the generation before us. But we also have to do it in a way that makes him feel good, gives him hope, gives him something to grab onto. Because when he's in prison, there's very little to grab onto. He doesn't know what's happening all the time. That's by design. That is by design by the oppressor and by the colonizer. And so we're trying to close that gap. We're trying to demonstrate to him that we are doing this. So he knows about the ceremony. He knows that this is going on. He knows that we're getting on a caravan. He knows that we're building art. He knows that we're organizing. He knows that we're fighting for him. And that's what gives him encouragement and hope. And so that's a really important part of this organizing effort, that we do it in a spiritual way, in a powerful way that brings light to the injustice that has happened to him individually, and the injustice that has happened to us, as an entire people and as an entire movement too.
And is still happening, as you can personally attest to. Like, this is ongoing.
Yeah, I was like, you look at what the injustices that is happening to Leonard is many of the same stuff that is happening to this day. To movement leaders all across this country, to community members, to common people all across this country are experiencing political repression, are experiencing attacks. I felt those myself. Many people in this movement have felt those themselves, having to defend themselves against the system because they're against what we're fighting for. They're against this idea of liberation, of Indigenous liberation. They don't want us to succeed because they're terrified that if we succeed, that we're going to bring light to all of the things that happen to Indigenous people in this country. But that light needs to be shined upon, and things need to change. Our people deserve education, housing, food, safety, and those are all the things that we're fighting for. You look back at the demands of the American Indian movement in the past, those demands are still relevant to this very day. And we have to continue to organize and fight in those efforts, regardless of the political repression that we experience from the legal system or the political system in this country. And that's part of the journey. That's part of the struggle. And so, I know that there's listeners and watchers all out there who've experienced this firsthand, that it hits home to almost every Native person has experienced in their families, political repression, attacks to the legal system, while we're trying to do good in the world, while we're trying to create positive and transformative change that will catalyze our Native people forward. And so this is a continuation of that. And our work, I would say there wouldn't, without the American Indian movement, there would never be an NDN collective. We have built on the foundation of the warriors that have come before us and the sacrifices that they have made, and it is us to show them that their commitment to creating change for Indigenous people wasn't for nothing, that their sacrifices weren't for nothing, because we are continuing on in that journey in the best way that we know how to protect Mother Earth and to protect our human rights as Indigenous people.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nick. And I know we'll be hearing more from Nick on the caravan. So thanks, Nick.
I'll be on the caravan the whole time, it sounds like. And so I think we're getting ready to do the ceremony pretty soon here.
Okay. So we'll go talk to Ivis next. Okay. So let's go find Ivis. We're going to talk to a member of the Jumping Bull family who was here during the shootout, and we'll talk to him, and then we'll get started with the ceremony. So I think the best path is probably to walk around the teepee. So we're going to go around the teepee, and as we go around, you can see what the space is like on here on the Jumping Bull Ranch on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. You might see some other media here. There are some other crews who are doing storytelling, and there's actually a documentary team here, and we'll be talking to some of the producers a bit later as well. But the next person I wanted to go talk to, like I mentioned, is a member of the family. So careful, watch your step here. There's some potholes. So we're going to be visiting with Ivis, long visitor. So Ivis, where did Ivis go? Is he back there? Okay. Oh, he's okay. So maybe he's already getting interviewed. He's a hot commodity right now. Okay, so I'll just share a little bit. So as I mentioned, there's another film crew here. There's a documentary film crew, and they're doing some interviews the same time as us. But if we don't get a chance to talk to Ivis right now, we'll talk to him later. But Ibis Long Visitor is a member of the Jumping Bull family, and he was actually here on the day of the shootout in 1975, and so just has a lot of history and a lot of really important insights to share about what we're here for today and about the caravan overall. But I think what we're also going to try to do is talk to another producer, as I mentioned, of the film crew for the Leonard Peltier documentary. One of the producers is Jody Archambault, and she's also Oglala, and she is here with the film crew. And so some of you might have seen other media, some other storytelling in the past of this incident. There was a documentary film that came out, I think it might have been in the 90s, called Incident at Oglala. That's an older one, but it's great to have a Native-led film team here to tell that story as well. So again, this has been, decades long, 5 decades long, this battle. So it does, as Nick said, it symbolizes the ongoing fight of Indigenous people who have been over-incarcerated, over-criminalized, movement leaders who have been persecuted, and at the same time, there's Leonard's life and Leonard's path and his experience himself. And so it's important to keep in mind that duality, and that while on one hand we're here as a part of this movement for justice and liberation for Indigenous people, we're also here specifically as a part of this caravan, going from starting with the ceremony here on Pine Ridge today. And then the caravan actually kicks off tomorrow from Rapid City. And there's a bus that is going to be loaded with people that leaves Rapid City tomorrow. That bus is actually full, unfortunately. So the caravan is full, but you are welcome to join and come along. Also, so the first leg of that journey is going to be from Rapid City to Minneapolis. At Minneapolis, there's going to be an event and rally there. You can check out our social media pages, and if you're watching on the live stream, we'll drop in the chat more information about that tomorrow. So the first leg starts tomorrow, goes to Minneapolis, and there will be an event there, I believe, not tomorrow, Saturday. And then from Minneapolis, another bus from the caravan is going to go to the next leg to Chicago. Same thing in Chicago, and then from Chicago to Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh to D.C. On Tuesday is Leonard's 79th birthday, and that's going to be when the rally and action are in D.C., right in front of the White House, because what we're doing is we're calling upon President Biden to free Leonard Peltier. It's been too long. It's been near 50 years, and there is no evidence to suggest, and all the evidence actually suggests otherwise, that Leonard Peltier did not commit the crimes that he's been wrongfully imprisoned for. And so on Tuesday, we'll have a number of folks there speaking in front of the White House, and the programming will start at noon. We'll also be live then as well. But yeah, we're getting close. We're definitely on Indian time here in the best kind of way, and a lot of people tend to think of Indian time as like not being prepared, but it's going with, honoring the moment and these important conversations that are happening and letting them happen when they need to happen. And so we're going to go next over to Ibis. It looks like he's ready right now, and then we'll get started. So thanks for bearing with us. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze through here. Okay, so we're going to see if there's actually Ibis and Jody, so maybe we could get a 2-in-1 here. And then you could see the beautiful land around us. You could see this gorgeous homelands of the Oglala Lakota people, and a place where there have been many gatherings and AIM members of the American Indian movement who gathered here in ceremony since 1975, since Leonard was wrongfully incarcerated. So they've been gathering here in ceremony for a long time. So our presence here today is actually just a continuation of that. But here we have Ibis. So Ibis, are you ready to visit a little bit? Okay. I guess. Okay. So Ibis, do you want to first introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ibis, long visitor from Oglala here. I live here on Jumping Bull property, the ranch here. Me and my brother run some cattle here that my grandpa used to run back in the day. But yeah.
And you were here back in 1975 when the incident took place. Is that right?
Unfortunately, I was here. Yeah. Me and my family lived right over there where they found Joe's body we lived in a little green shack there. But yeah, we were here.
You must have been pretty young back then. Were you
I was
in
only
your 20s?
20 years old, I do believe. I think back then, I can't remember, but yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And just saw you having some conversation with the documentary film crew here. So we're really glad to talk to you and thankful for the time. I know we're getting ready for the ceremony here, but we wanted to make sure and spend some time with you. Just firstly, because as you know, we're going to turn off the cameras once we start the ceremony. But we wanted our audience and our people who are watching, and many of the people who are watching are Native people. They're also allies, comrades, non-Indigenous people, and people who are following this fight, following this ongoing near 50-year fight to free Leonard Peltier. So now that we're here today, and I'm sure you've seen many of these gatherings here in your time over the past 50 years, from various different ceremonies that were held on these grounds to, gatherings of organizers trying to free Leonard. I know that there's been other documentary film crews here over the years. So now that we're here today in 2023, almost 50 years later, how are things feeling here today? And is it feeling any more promising than times in the past?
Well, it's promising that, there's a good number of people here that are going to carry the struggle on. It's just till the day, he gets out or whatever, that struggle is still being carried on by these young people. It's good to see that. Makes us stronger. Sort of the older folks of the groups and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Nick, we were visiting with Nick earlier, our president and CEO, and mentioned that he was able to have a conversation with Leonard the other day, and we were talking about, this caravan, and it was really, and a few of us got to be around when that call came in, and we got to hear Leonard's voice and hear his excitement and happiness that we were still continuing this fight, and that it was giving him energy, it was giving him strength and encouragement, and that, knowing these things, it keeps him going because his health is not good. He's struggling in there. So if you could say anything to Leonard, if this message were to get to him, and we're really hopeful that this is going to be the time that gets him out, and so he's going to be seeing all these messages. If you could say anything to Leonard, an old bro, what would you say to him?
Just tell him to hang in there. We'll never forget him. We'll never forget you. It's still in our prayers, and we fly the flags, and we'll never give up the hope of him getting home to his family, and that kind of keep strong, brother. Keep strong.
Yeah, thank you, Ivis.
Make us strong. Make us strong. Appreciate that. Sacrifice.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot, and I know there's a lot of young Indigenous people who are in this movement, this ongoing movement for justice for Native people. We got a lot of young AIM members here today, and my family was a part of the movement, and I know that we have some youth storytellers here too that are now a part of the movement, youth organizers, youth Native people who are a part of this work just by sheer necessity that our people want fairness, we want to live a good life. But in light of that younger generation, do you have any thoughts to share with people who are watching, who are looking for that encouragement as we continue to fight for that good life that our people deserve? So yeah, just any words for youth and the young people.
I just got to keep keeping on, I guess. It's a hard thing to do, but life is full of commitments, and we need the young to keep the work going, keep the struggle alive, and I'm sure there's going to be things in the future they'll need their help, so just be open to, whatever goes on. be open to new struggles, I guess. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ivis. Appreciate talking with you, and we'll catch up with you more after the ceremony. So we'll see you. Thank you. All right, so it was Ivis, long visitor. Thank you, Ivis. We're going to make our way back around here, and I think we're going to get ready to get this show started. So, yeah, I think we're just waiting on the last couple of pieces to come together and the last couple of people to come through. I know there's a couple more interviews happening as we speak with that film crew that I talked about. Really neat to see them, actually, and to see these elders here. Maybe we can go take a peek at what they're sharing. I think it's actually really, really powerful and beautiful to see this group of Lakota elders sitting here and people who have been a part of this movement. And they have some photos here of, maybe we can zoom in and check them out. I'm going to try to step back a little bit so that while he's getting that footage, so that my speaking isn't interfering with their interview taking place right now. But who you'll see there is Jody Gillette, who is one of the producers of this documentary, this Free Leonard Peltier documentary, and also Jane Myers, who is here, another well-known producer and producer of the film Prey. And they're both here with a film crew interviewing a number of folks as well. And so keep an eye out for that documentary coming soon. I'm not quite sure. I don't think we're able to pick up the audio of the folks speaking, but could hear loved ones of the family, sharing really poignant words about Leonard's release. The photo there, this beautiful black and white photo of Free Leonard Peltier banners, and hard to tell when the photo was taken, and I wasn't here when they were first being interviewed, but it's obviously an older photo, really indicating this decades-long fight to free Leonard. And you see these beautiful, beautiful Lakota elders, men and women who have been a part of this fight and seen firsthand the impacts. What we know as well with the movement is that there are long-term effects on Native people. Hi again, thanks for zooming in there. I know we're not able to get the audio as their team has their own audio, but did want to make sure that you all got to see some of what was going on and these really beautiful Indigenous-led efforts to tell this story now in 2023. Like I said, the story has been told for decades as well by non-Indigenous allies and non-Indigenous producers as well, but it's really beautiful to see Native storytelling here. So thank you so much for joining our live stream. If you haven't already, we always like folks to know where you're tuning in from. So if you haven't already, just drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. Again, I'm Sarah Sunshine Manning. I'm Niwih and Nima, a citizen of the Shoshone-Paiute tribes of the Duck Valley Indian Reservation in Idaho and Nevada, and I'm also the communications director here at NDN, and really honored to be here today, to be in this beautiful, beautiful space. You see tears already, you hear laughter, you hear the Lakota language, you hear some right after tears and happiness, you hear that laughter, and I don't know if you overheard, all in unison, these elders saying "A" all loud. I wish I could have got that, but anyway, so we're starting to circle up here for these opening remarks, and once we get started, we're going to pass this mic over. We're going to go near the speakers so that we could hear the opening remarks. So we're circling up, preparing for the ceremony. Again, we're not going to be filming or streaming the ceremony, but we want to bring to you as much of the story and the feeling and the vibe as we can. So while everyone is circling up, remember to check out our social media pages and the links dropped in the chat for more information about the 79th birthday caravan to DC to Free Leonard Peltier, where we are calling upon President Biden to release Leonard. So, I think we'll start making our way towards the beautiful teepee and preparing to hear the opening remarks from a lot of the people here. And so, really, really good feelings here today. It's warm today, but there's a nice breeze. And so, we'll try to get some conversation going a bit later too with some other people. We always do our best to chat with as many folks as we can, but the programming, the show has to go on, and so we don't want to hold it up. So like I was saying about Indian time, it isn't a negative or bad thing. It's not being late for the sake of being late. It's moving at the speed of the relatives here, moving at the speed of the energy and the ceremony, because that's what we're here for. So ceremonies rarely start right on the nose. If your ceremony is able to start right on the nose, that's great. But a lot of them are like this, and that's the beautiful ease of our way of life, giving the time that is needed to gather, to make sure that felt good, and give things the time that they need. So everyone else joining the circle here, and I'm pretty sure we're going to start with folks speaking in the front of the teepee, but we might move around as people get started, just so that
Good to see each and every one of you on this day. I want to start off, ask Ivis Long to share a few words. You know, we wanted to come here on this land really in a good way. They were gracious enough to welcome us to their land and to their place here, where a lot of things happen, where a lot of this struggle began. So at this time, I ask Ivis to a few words.
Our relatives, I just want to say welcome to Jumping Bull property. In 1868, it's all our land. In 34, they did this act that divided it all up into little tracts, and this was my grandma's first husband's land, and later on she married my grandpa Harry Jumping Bull, and so after that it was known as Jumping Bull property. But, during the commemoration every year we get together in June 6th and we walk from the cemetery where Joe Stuntz is buried. A lot of movement orders over there, June Little, Bo Little, and we walk over here, and every year I welcome them to the property.